The road is shrouded with pillars of rising and falling dust. None would waste their strength on protests. In India, it's of no avail. Every idea must be checked thoroughly and over a long time. That which was successful in Rome does not necessarily suit here. And even if the main road did prove that it will smoothly advance, everything has its own karma, and haste is from the devil. But last night, the time was right. Big projectors were installed, steam rollers compressed the earth, and black tar cackled in the barrels. 2 trucks unloaded barefoot slaves, worn-out rags tied around their waists, their legs skinny and black, like burnt-out matches. All night, I numbed my heart. In the morning, as in a fairy tale, they vanished like the shoemaker's dwarfs, and Juhu awoke to an asphalt road.
Beautiful.
So, see, just a brief pause here, which is that I found this poem very powerful, and this is the wonderful thing about Tsippy's poems written about India is that they make you see your own country and your own people and your own self with new eyes. Is there anything anybody wants to say? Yes.
So, in light of this poem, would you really say that India was safe that night? And it would have been better, it would have been Columbus would have come there, we would have been like America.
Anyway.
No colonization is better. No. Never.
Any other comments or questions before we move to the next?
I remember when I was very, very young, a long time ago, I was living in Mussoorie up in the hills. So some similar thing to this. There was a landslide, and the entire road got covered by a landslide. And we were walking, and we came, and there were 2 people like your workers with 2 pickaxes working on this landslide. And so I said, when do you think this road will get ready? He said, by evening it'll be done. And all of us laughed, and because there's no chance, 2 men with pickaxes. But by that evening, they had cleared that landslide, and the buses were all going through, and nobody stopped to thank those 2 people. They sat there smoking their BDs on the side of the road, and all the buses went through, and just like you're talking about in one night, in one day, they cleared the landslide. And then they're forgotten after that. It's beautiful. I mean, it's sad, but it's beautiful.
But that maybe is the miracle of India, that the impossible happens.
But on the backs of human beings who... Anyway.
Very true, very true.
This next poem is on page 45. It doesn't have a title, but the first line is the lobby of the Mumbai Oberoi. And all of us know exactly what she's talking about. It's amazing. The lobby of the Mumbai Oberoi is slightly raised so that the earth won't be seen, and so that we won't feel how much we have distanced ourselves from her. Gigantic grayish windows allow the right rays to permeate, and coconut palms swirl humidity and soot to the beat of a silent piano. The sea vibrates with the color of the pain which hides its true shade, pain spelled P-A-N-E, but it could also be P-A-I-N. The sea vibrates with the color of the pain which hides its true shade. Beggars and rickshaws are banned from encroaching on the hotel's vicinity. Slim receptionists float in precise pleated saris like marionettes freed from their strings. That is amazing. I just like to repeat that line. Slim receptionists float in precise pleated saris like marionettes freed from their strings, spraying jasmine and anesthetic dosage, nursing the chance that I will believe in their love. In the toilets, a woman in a uniform smile hands me a hot, moist towel and makes an effort to know before I do what my heart desires. This is one thing I've never understood about five-star hotels. Why do they have to keep people in the toilets? I mean, this is one of the most private acts in the history of mankind. Why can't we just be left alone to do what we have to do? But nope, there'll be three people standing there as if to ask, what exactly did you do in there? You have no desire to share those moments with anybody, and there they stand with their uniform smile. It's amazing. In the toilets, a woman in a uniform smile hands me a hot, moist towel, and makes an effort to know before I do what my heart desires. Every few minutes, a transparent man in white uniform apologizes for his existence and empties ashtrays. Soon, even the angels will envy me. From the cool fairy tale framed with rose leaves, I leave for the real burning outside, Mumbai. Thank you.
Beautiful. Say that just now, the way you read it, Tom, I like this poem even better than when I read it. There were meanings in it which came alive to me because of the way you read it.
But in defense of the five-star hotel, I'm sorry, this is the other side. For all of us who came to Mumbai, I came with 44 rupees in my pocket. I still have 44 rupees in my pocket. In those days, a long, long time ago, to go to a five-star hotel, especially the Taj, not so much the Oberoi, was literally like being envied by the angels. And a visit to the Taj for like 2-3 hours would last a part soul for about 3-4 months. One visit. I mean, that's the positive side of the but to live in that world non-stop would be very, very odd. But to come from the outside world and get that refreshment, that nourishment for 2-3 hours was a real blessing in those days and still is, but fantastic.
So now do we go to the next poem? I think Raviv.
Australian poem?
Yeah.
Maybe before we find the poem, I'll say that the book concludes a few chapters. One of them is about my father's death. Another one is postcards from all over the world, from India, from Australia, from Poland, from Italy. Another section is a biblical interpretation, women's interpretation about the old scriptures. And I think it's all of them, no? Yeah.
Another section of stories.
Yeah, this is about family matters, yes. So now we go to Raviv that will read 2 or 1 poems about Australia.
And that's because even though Raviv denies it, and anyway, he's got an Australian accent. He was kind of born and brought up in Australia and all that. So, here we go.
I spent what they call my formative years there, but as Vivek says, I keep denying it, but it doesn't help me. For 2 days, I stood on my head, so my blood would flow to places remote, to sprout thoughts of Australia. On the 3rd day, I wore other clothes, and with soft and durable dancing shoes, I approached the gate. An Australian guard crowned me Queen of the Rabbits. Endless white, soft, and pink-eyed rabbits, the last animals to come to the continent, awaiting citizenship. Joy spread in burrows and nests. They had no queen, and I had no subjects. My rabbits are very dear proof that everything can start from a single pair. My subjects are pure and modest. They do not know that they represent the dreams of many, to be white and have sex all day. Once people raised a fence against them, lest the land be full of them, but they dealt wisely and rose up one on the other, and their pioneers started to run on both sides of the fence. stretching the latitudes and longitudes of Australia. Queen of Rabbits is an honorary title. Unlike my rabbits, and like the Dalai Lama, I can come and go and tell the whole world about those soft heart and fur who became pests in their own home and were marked as the accelerators of desertification. My role is to wonder at the running of my rabbits, to relax my facial muscles, and to smile at them in Australian, because I am their queen. Like them, I am soft, restless, gnawing myself, and coward.
How did you say the Aussies reacted to these poems of yours?
No, they
I don't think they like it.
That last line, can you just read that last line again? From Like Them.
Like them, I am soft, restless, gnawing myself, and coward.
But you know, do the...
What this type of poem is not supposed to be explained, but I haven't fully got it.
Yeah, I was just going to ask a related one. She says, this lady says that she, could you explain the last line, and you can do so to the extent that you want. I was just thinking, do Aussies really know it themselves? I didn't think they were the type I didn't think Australians were the type who gnawed at themselves and agonized.
No, Tsippy's the one who will.
I'm not an Australian, I'm an Israeli, but I could be the queen of rabbits in Australia because I'm coward like the rabbits. It doesn't mean anything wrong with the Australians, but they didn't like another poem that you are going to read. Maybe you will read it first, and then if it's not obvious why they didn't like it, I will explain. But what didn't understand in the last line? You didn't understand the whole poem?
Then maybe offline.
Yeah, maybe. Thank you.
And yeah, so this is like, you know, like them I am soft, wrestling, gnawing myself and coward, like the rabbits.
Yeah.
Do the rabbits know it themselves?
I don't know if they know themselves. They know.
They know.
A lot of vegetables, and sometimes when they don't have food, probably they know the nail fingers. Or
We had pet rabbits as children, and they do know themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do, they do.
I think the issue to understand here that
Poetry
rabbits...
is a bit like prophecy, you see.
I think the issue to understand here that rabbits are not native of Australia. There were no rabbits in Australia, and some migrant woman from England brought a couple of rabbits, a pair, and now they are a total pest running all over the country, and a nuisance, and everybody is trying to eradicate them and kill them, and they cause deserts, and this is the basis of the poem here. And so Tsippy identifies with the rabbits because she's also not originally from Australia.
No, because I easily identify with those who are expelled and trying to be...
Eradicated.
Yes.
So, Tomji.
Excuse me, because one question I would like to ask, why is it that you call rabbits a coward? Last word, coward.
I think rabbits are not animals that run after other animals. Mainly they are run away from animals. So, but maybe it's only my imagination.
They certainly do not hunt. They do not attack. Maybe you could call them gentle rather than cowardly, but having raised rabbits, they generally, when they see trouble, they hide. They don't face up to trouble. If in the night, if you're driving and a rabbit gets caught in your headlight, they'll panic. They won't know what to do. So maybe it's a lack of self-confidence. Maybe cowardly is a strong word, but they're not very brave. This I can vouch for, because I've seen them from close quarters. They're very sweet and very cuddly, but not very brave.
So, yes, I feel that I can identify with them.
Page 73. A very short and very powerful poem. Australia is not the promised land. It is the lucky country. He who was expelled from the darkest depths of Europe, wizened and insecure like a wet cat, dried instantly, stood spread-legged in a wide-brimmed hat with hands on hips. Just quickly, before we get into discussion, of course, cricket is a great common passion between India and Australia. I don't know how much cricket is played in Israel. But all of you are cricket fanatics. You know, recently the Aussies came here and we hammered them 4 tests to 0. Well, after losing the first 3 tests, the coach of the Australian cricket team, can you believe this? Now he was acting like a rabbit. He was not acting like a kangaroo. He asked the team members of the Australian cricket team to email him 6 reasons why they thought the team was losing. Can you imagine? The Aussies are being asked questions to email the reasons they're losing. This is as un-Aussie as you could possibly get. And if you remember, 4 of the players refused to email the reasons why they were losing. And one of them was then sent home, and of course they lost the 4 tests, and then of course they had to change the coach, and then they got hammered by England. But the point I'm raising is that the Aussies are not rabbits by nature, but circumstances have started to make them think like rabbits, and they're very uncomfortable in this new guise, at least as far as cricket goes. So when I read this poem, this is what came into my mind. Those poor Aussies sitting in Chandigarh, being asked by a South African coach to email 6 reasons why they were losing. This is as un-Aussie as you could possibly get.
What fascinates me is that the Aussies are celebrating the 26th of April, that they were defeated yes, in the First World War in Gallipoli, and this became a national holiday. And I wish we could have this sort of holidays.
Fantastic.
I think it's the only country in the world which celebrates a defeat.
If I may ask, how many Australians are there in the crowd? There is one, okay. You know, I must confess to you that, there was a T-shirt, I'm paraphrasing that T-shirt, maybe I'll print it one day. I support India and anybody playing Australia. So, that's my cricket thing. But I mean, I hope you don't mind. Lovely.
But let me say, in Australia's defense, I went there in 1968 after passing out of school here in India. My roommate for 8 years was an Aussie, and he was the biggest badmash I've ever seen in my entire life. So the 2 of us went, and we spent 6 weeks in Australia it was the winter of 68 for them, the summer of 68 for us. And those were some of the happiest days of my life. Of course, when you're 18 years old in Australia, then everything is wide open. You can do all the things you dreamt about doing in India and that you can never do.
Everything is
so
wide open.
We were not rabbits. We were the opposite of rabbits. But it's a very fascinating country, and I think your poems really delve very deep into the psyche of the country.
Is there anything anybody wants to say, perhaps insulting to India or me? Okay, I've given you all a chance. So now we move. There's a section of poems dealing with the Bible, and you've heard part of this earlier in the dance. I will read it now because it's a special favorite of mine. The Death of Sarah. Would you want to say anything more about this?
Yes, it's a poem that got the first prize in a competition in Israel for women's interpretation of the Old Testament, and I tried in this poem to revive Sarah's voice, which is missing in the chapter of the sacrifice of Isaac. And what is amazing is that the following chapter after the sacrifice of Isaac describes that Sarah died. And this sort of indirect connection between the 2 events is very powerful in my eyes, so I try to give her a voice.
So here, the death of Sarah. Now, you know, what was earlier read was only a section of it, so this is a more complete version, a little more complete. The death of Sarah. After these things, she died, defeated for not protecting the child, reliving each fingernail, his scratched kneecap, his soft earlobe, his skinny finger pulling his locks apart. She died thrashing amongst the tent walls. How did she let the child tiptoe away under the cover of a bray? And dawn piles up on the heaviness of her eyelids, listening how the echo of his name weakens, and with it, her voice that calls him. She died without understanding how this man leaked her son's soul, left him depleted on one of the mountains, stamped with the stretched arm and its slaughtering knife. She died when he came from that place, with euphoria flowing from his eyes, enveloping him with a halo of torturing saints. The laughter she had denied shrank in the hollow of her stomach, turned into a hurricane's eye. She died for she knew, when he passed her by, her disobedience